Hi, my name is Samson Manalo, and I'm a writer, a director, a producer, and a stand-up comic. My project that I'm working on is called In Between. Between is actually a Tagalog word. It's spelled a little differently. It sounds like between, but it's Bituin, which means stars in Filipino. And it's a project that I've been working on probably the last 35 years, and it's going to be the first time ever that I'm doing a solo performance of this project. It's kind of a culmination of my stand-up act. I've been doing stand-up comedy since 1987, and it's kind of a collection of my search for my own cultural identity, and it culminates in talking about my wife, Joyce Manalo, who was married for 29 years, and sadly last year she passed away from cancer. That's when, a few months after she had passed, I actually talked about it on stage, dealing with the grief that I was going through, and I tried to do that in kind of a stand-up form. So it was something I've never experienced before, being vulnerable and honest on stage, and at the same time making sure that I honor her too. So In Between is that story, and I call it In Between because I feel like I was born and raised here, and I'm a very proud Filipino, but I always feel like I'm in that in-between space of my Filipino identity and my American identity. Some people call it third space, but I always feel like I'm in between that. And it also has taken on a new meaning since Joyce has passed away. It's kind of in search for her, in between the stars is the way I look at it. I think for me, it's important to have these type of shows. Years ago, when I was running Bindlestiff Studio along with my wife Joyce, I made sure that stand-up comedians were highlighted, and I actually produced a series of stand-up comedy shows called Pull My Finger. It's kind of a tribute to all the uncles who would tell you to pull my finger, and there was a lot of great comics. Kevin Kami was there, who now lives in LA and was on Stephen Colbert's show. Joey Gila, who was on tour with Joe Coy. Different stand-up comics who kind of grace the stages of Bindlestiff. So I think it's important to continue that tradition of featuring Filipino stand-up comics. I think we have great representation coming up. But I think we know that we've arrived when there's actually a medical drama, a movie or a TV show about hospitals that actually contain Filipino nurses. I mean, that is when it's going to be authentic, right? Because I remember watching Chicago Hope or all these other medical dramas back in the 60s or the 70s, the 80s, and thinking to myself, where's the Filipinos? And I think everyone has noticed that too. Or a drama about the post office, right? And then you'll have just all these Filipino characters, and that would be for real, right? Or maybe a show about the security guards at the MoMA or something. One thing I've learned through my own career, and again, like I'm matanda, I just hit 60 last year. And if I could go back in time, for me, one thing is just never to compromise yourself and what you want to do. Pursue it with all of your heart, and always let everyone know you're good. And what I mean by that is really focus on your craft, whatever you're doing, and just continually challenge yourself. Never sit on your ass, even if you've experience any type of or a taste of success. Just keep going, keep getting better and better, and everything else will follow. So never compromise yourself. That's number one. Number two is tell the truth. Always tell the truth in what you're doing, in what you're writing. Never fake the funk, as they always used to say in my generation. Don't fake the funk. Tell the truth, meaning when you're on stage, when you're making music, if you're a filmmaker, if you're a visual artist, there should always be something that drives what you're creating. And it should come from some source of truth, your own truth. In other words, you do it for what you feel inside, right? That truth that lives within all of us. Because if you do it to try to please your audience, you're going to find yourself as an artist who just panders, you know. So, and you're not going to feel good about yourself because you're just doing it to please your audience. That all comes. People eventually come to see you because they're looking for their own truths, and it's all about that human condition, right? And, so that the more that shows up in your art, the more people will come to see it. And that would be my advice. Why is it important for our Filipino artists, Filipinx artists, to continue to do what they do? Is because we have stories, right? We all have stories that need to be told. And it could be in the form of music, art, dance, visual arts, of course, filmmaking, all the arts, all of the above. And I think for me, the more you are able to express what we do as the people, showing our integrity, showing our loves, our pains, everything, it brings us closer again to that human condition, right? The more we are able to tell these stories and bring them out to the quote-unquote mainstream, the more people will see that, oh wow, we are just like them, right? And then the them disappears, and then it becomes, we're just like us. And so I just think it's really important as we continue to step forward to tell our stories, the bad and the good, the suffering and the triumphs, because it's all part of being human. This is a book that my friend Dr. Theo Gonzalez helped me put together, and it's a book called Gossip, Sex, and the End of the World, the collective works of Tongue in a Mood. I had a sketch comedy group that I had put together called Tongue in a Mood back in the 90s, the mid-90s. And the reason why that's really essential is we needed to find a home, a place to call home, because we were performing at colleges. We ended up performing at this restaurant called Tito Ray's. I don't know if people remember that in Daly City. And I remember doing our show at Tito Ray's and how bad we bombed. And I thought to myself, oh my God, we need to find a venue, our own place. And I ended up going to a show at Bindlestiff Studio to see this artist, Lorna Aquino Chewy. Her name is Alona Velasco now. She was 19 at the time, and she had this show called BALAY. She was the first really Filipina artist I saw at Bindlestiff. And I fell in love with this little rinky-dink black box theater in the middle of 6th Street, which a lot of people consider like a Skid Row area. And going there, first time I thought, I went to Bindlestiff, I saw the door. In fact, this pink cover here, if you see, is the original door of Bindlestiff Studio. And it looked like really a sex club or something, like it's a kind of S&M club, I thought. And I went in there and saw Lorna's show, and it was amazing. And I asked the people who were running it, do you need any acts? And they said, oh yeah, please come. And so we did our show, Tongue in Mood. We did our first, and this is a collection of all our 3 big shows that were there. And we talked a lot about us as Filipino Americans, you know, our loves, our issues, our struggles. That it was all done in the form of comedy, sketch comedy. And so we became quite popular. We started selling out our shows to a point where the people who are running, Christine Els, who founded Bindlestiff, said, here's the keys. Why don't you guys just take it over? And we made it into a Filipino American epicenter, is what I called it. We invited all kinds of Filipino theater groups, Teatro ng Tanan. We had live music festivals called Pinoy's Pop Music Festival that Jesse Gonzalez and OG Gonzalez put together. We had film festivals. We had, like I said earlier, stand-up comedy shows. Very exciting times. Eventually, I left to move to the Philippines with Joyce, and Bindlestiff evolved into a nonprofit organization. The city wanted to tear it down, the building that we were in, and the community came out. We fought against the city and the redevelopment agency to make sure that they included Bindlestiff Studio in their new building. And after years and years and years of fighting with them, we finally got a new space that opened in, I actually got to open it in 2011 when I came back from the Philippines. And so that's the Bindlestiff that exists today. It's in the actual spot that we used to be in too. And it's all in this book that you can get at Archipelago. Yeah, you know, this opportunity with BALAY Creative actually came, I know Nicole, actually I directed her in one of her shows when she was developing her one-woman show. So when, you know, Nicole, when I got a hold of Nicole, or when Nicole got a hold of me and asked me that, I thought I'd just throw out the idea of doing this solo performance, because I've been working on this material about grief, which is really a fine line to straddle, because you're talking about something that really is profound, that can be profoundly sad. I'm trying to find it or talk about it in the form I know best, which is, and love the most, is stand-up comedy. I think it's a wonderful thing that you know, BALAY Creative is doing, because I wish you all were around 30 years ago when I started doing stand-up comedy. I think it'd be different, a different story now. But the guidance that I see everyone's giving, and the excitement to, and also just the past history of since you all started this program, I think is remarkable, and it makes me proud to be able to see that there's a Filipinx community that's supporting each other. That's really, really important.